It is September 28, 2025, and this is episode 33. And today we'll start with a little story. I became interested in the city's relationship with about 200 nonprofit organizations that they send money to. And in a minute, I'll post a clip of the table in the budget for leverage support. But I started to get interested in some of these nonprofits, and there were two in particular that I looked at. One was called Centrifuge, and they were getting about $250,000 a year from the city. And the other is called Cincy Tech, and they're getting an equal amount. Those have come down like last year or this budget round. They came down a little bit. Actually, I think Cincy Tech came down a lot. But they're, in my view, unusual recipients of city money. Centrifuge deals with entrepreneurs and tries to incubate entrepreneurs, start their own business, etc. And Cincy Tech is actually a venture capitalist. And the difference between the two, one is a 501c. Centrifuge is a 501c3, which is a nonprofit IRS category. They pay no taxes, no federal taxes, and they have to file a report every year with the IRS. And those reports are public. Those are the 990s that most people are familiar with. Centrifuge has to file, but their files Cincy Tech has to file, but their filings are not public. Who their board of directors is not public. We know very little about it, but for whatever reason, the city's giving them $250,000 a year. So I don't know why we're giving money to a venture capitalist. I don't know why we're giving money to Centrifuge, especially if you look at Centrifuge's 990. Their CEO, who I'm sure is a very competent person and knows what he's doing, he's making $300,000 a year, and it's almost like the city is subsidizing his salary. And I just don't understand why we're doing that. So I got interested in that, and I decided to go down to Centrifuge and look at their records. By virtue of their nonprofit status, they have to make certain records available to the public for inspections. So I took them up on that and went down to look at their books. I had no idea what they looked like, which was part of the plan. I wanted to get a glimpse of what some of these nonprofits, what their records might look like. So I went down, made an appointment, and they were very nice and very cooperative. And they set me up in a room so I could look at the documents. And so when I looked at the 990, I found that Mayor Purval was a member of the board of directors. And that was on the 990 for 2022 and 2023. The 2024, I still don't think is public. I think what the COO told me is that it won't come out until November sometime, that they always take an extension, a 6-month extension, which brings them into October or November. I don't know. So I didn't have that information, but that started this whole inquiry, which is how can the mayor of Cincinnati be sitting on the board of a nonprofit that the city gives money to? And just based on what I know, that raises a lot of issues with ethics. So I wound up packaging all the information I had, packaged it up to send to the Ohio Ethics Commission to get their sense of what this really meant. And they wrote back, and it was very, very disappointing. I couldn't tell them that the mayor was still on the board. I did ask the COO. I didn't want to say too much, but I did ask the COO whether there'd been any changes to their board of directors since the last filing, since the last 990 filing. She said no. So that's what I told the Ethics Commission. Well, they still said I didn't give them proof of a violation. So I let that simmer for a while. And eventually, I wrote a letter to the CEO of Centrifuge and just asked him. And yes, he wrote back and said, yes, Mayor Purval's been on the board since 2022. So I think that's a violation. And I wrote to the city last week and told them that, and offered some suggestions on what they could do about it. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Let me show you some of the documents here. So the first thing is this leverage support. Here's what the table looks like. And as you can see, the city manager makes a recommendation, then the mayor makes adjustments, the city council makes adjustments, and then you have the, I don't know if that's the difference or the total. I think that's the total. And as you can see, under Centrifuge, the city managers proposed $200,000, and I'm sure the mayor has influence over that, although it's not in the open. And then he specifically increased the appropriation for Centrifuge by $25,000 while he's sitting on the board of directors. That shouldn't happen. So that's what I sent to the Ethics Commission. And I thought that was persuasive, but I guess they wanted proof that he was still on the board. So here is the 990 and what that looked like when I showed up at their offices. And this is their 2023 990. And as you can see, the board of directors, AFTAB Purval, and presumably that's going to be what the 24 and 25 990 looks like. And then I am not going to post the letter that I sent to the Ethics Commission, because I'm going to send another letter to the Ethics Commission if the city council and the mayor don't do anything. I think they have to do something. They have to do something. I mean, it's an ongoing violation, and that can't happen. So I did send a letter to the city council. I'm going to put it up on the screen here and walk you through it. So this was on the 23rd of September, so last week. And I laid out the facts about the board membership and how the CEO wrote me back and confirmed that Mayor AFTAB was still on the board. And then I talked about the leverage support appropriation for Centrifuge and how that was a conflict. I cite the applicable law. And the recommendations or the corrective actions, I identified 6 of them. The point for me was that, this is significant because the mayor sets the tone. The ethical tone of an organization is set at the top, and if the top isn't complying with ethics rules, then that sends a bad message on down through the organization. It's as simple as that. It's not exaggeration or anything, but if the head of your organization is flaunting the ethics rules, that's going to impact the operation of the organization. So that's the whole thinking. So I lined out 6 corrective actions that I thought that the city should take. Number 1, either the mayor should self-refer or the city council should refer the issue to the Ethics Commission for an opinion or some type of guidance. They could always get something from the city solicitor's office, although that always has the possibility of becoming political. They could ask the city council, or the mayor could ask the city council to retroactively approve his seat on the Centrifuge board, but that would interfere, or that would conflict with a letter or a memo decision that the city manager wrote back in January that talked about how problematic it would be for city council members to sit on a nonprofit board of directors. And the mayor said all through those discussions in chambers and never told anybody, I guess, that he actually sat on the board. And I guess if he understood the issue, he would have, that whole debate should have triggered him to resign from his board membership, but that didn't happen. And when I went to Centrifuge to look at their records, I'm sure they called the mayor and told him that I was down there. That should have triggered a resignation. So anyway, that's the simplest way to fix this, would be a resignation. And then if nothing happens, if the mayor doesn't take any action, the city could just the city council, I think, could sanction or censure the mayor. But whatever happens, they need some serious policy reforms. I went down to a city council meeting not too long ago, probably within the last couple of months, and I was alerting them to the problems with leverage support. And I mentioned to them that that they should have, when they go to modify these leverage support appropriations, either the mayor or the city council, they should all sign a certification that they don't have any conflicts of interest with these groups that they want to fund. So that went over like a lead balloon, like everything else I go down there and talk about. But yeah, I think the mayor had several opportunities to, check in and see whether or not it's a good idea to be on the board, but I guess he didn't do that. I don't know. I hope I find out someday. But there's also a city regulation for the employees. So with this regulation in place, it is definitely a case of rules for thee, but not for me. Here's the regulation for the city, administrative regulation number 68. And it says that this is under policy that you can see there. The last sentence of that paragraph sums it up very nicely. City employees must strictly avoid any conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest. So if the mayor was to follow the same rules as the city employees are supposed to follow, he wouldn't be able to sit on that board. So that all needs to be fixed. And to me, the big deal is not that he's on that board. The big deal is that they're so careless about complying with ethics that they just have not learned any lessons. But I did write the letter. I'm going to follow up if they don't do anything. I may go down there this week, or if it's not this week, the next week, and just see if they are going to respond to my letter, because they normally don't. But I would like to hear what happens. So as you can see, there's more fun and games with these leverage support partners, and I am going to once more end the broadcast with a editorial cartoon that ChatGPT came up with for me, and here it is. And with that, we'll see you next time.